Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July meeting of the Denville Board of Education. This is our regular and work session meeting for the month. This meeting of the Denville Township Board of Education is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Notice of this meeting was provided to the Daily Record and/or the Star Ledger of Morris County, has been delivered to the Township Clerk, and has been posted on the bulletin board of the Board of Education office and at each of the school buildings in the district. Roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Here.
Mr. Cass,
Here.
Mr. Anderson,
Here.
Mr. Lure,
Here.
Mr. Kim,
Here.
Mrs. Gould,
Here.
Mrs. Wagner.
Mrs. Wagner is out. She's on vacation this week, so she sends her apologies. Okay, at this time, we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, this evening we have one special presentation from our superintendent, the 2021 HIB and SSDS presentation. Steve, whenever you're ready.
It's in your packet if you guys would like to look at it. To the board packet for today. Every year, all boards of education are required to report at a public board meeting. The HIB and Student Safety Data System report. We do it once in December, actually once in January for June to December, July to December, and then we have to do it for the full year. So our full year report from July 1, 2020 to June 30, 2021, we had 0 instances of substance abuse and/or weapons. We had 1 confirmed case of HIB and 3 investigations that were not confirmed HIB. 0 instances of vandalism, 1 incidence of violence, and there were 0 instances of violence and vandalism from students with disabilities. There was 1 time when the police were notified, 0 in-school suspensions, and 2 out-of-school suspensions throughout the year. Our trainings and programs, we offered 41 different student, parent, staff trainings and programs through the year, and as well as 41 trainings and 92 programs throughout the year. Those things, several of these things are embedded in our programs that we already have, and some are specific to HIB. Our Board of Education and administrative team, including the HIB team, was trained by our attorney, Francis, this year. And some other actions are teaching and learning, student relationships, safety, parental support, physical and emotional environments, and morale in the school community. These are things that are discussed every day in morning meetings and in the advisory program in the middle school. Any questions about this year's full report from the beginning to the end? If that's okay with Mr. Capello.
Any board members have questions, please?
I have a quick question. What's the difference between trainings and programs?
So the trainings are specific, like a training program, a training thing. A program could be like a special event. Like one year we brought John Halligan, for Ryan's story. We bring the person in. We had a meeting about it. So like a special program could be, all the different things that we do throughout the year that have to do with character. And then a training would be a specific thing like you guys went through with the Board of Education with our attorney.
Thank you.
Dr. Forte, you said that we had 1 case that was found to be HIB and 3 investigations. Was that 4 total investigations, or was that 3 investigations and 1 was HIB?
So there was 4 investigations. 1 was confirmed, and then 3 investigations that did not conclude to a HIB case.
And obviously, this year was very different from previous years. This was, if I remember correctly, last year's HIB was significantly more than this, wasn't it? Like twice as much or something?
Last year's, well, it's funny, twice as much would be two, because there's only one. So last year was also not normal, a normal year for HIB due to the coronavirus pandemic. But in years past, we're normally somewhere in the 20 investigations range and 8, 9 confirmed cases, somewhere in that range.
Thank you. Do we have any idea, aside from the kids only being in school for half days, what was done differently this year that maybe we can build on that to keep the numbers from going back up in the future?
That's a good question. We talked about it as a team. What is different? I mean, everybody there was just a lot of different. It was just not a normal year. There was less kids in the school. Number one, there was less opportunity for children to interact with one another in the hallways, for example. So actually, Dave, probably one of the biggest things as I think about it was the reduction in the amount of unsupervised, like adult supervised activity, right? Because not that kids are not supervised all the time, but they're much more strictly supervised in the classroom than they are in the hallway, say. But the hallway time was much more monitored and there was much less time for interaction with students. And that's where a lot of our HIB comes from. The lunchroom, there was no lunchroom. So those are the kinds of things that usually cause the issues, who got pushed out on the playground, things like that. So we'll definitely keep an eye on it and continue our work in the HIB and also in character ed. And hopefully maybe we'll make changes and there will be less of it going forward.
Thank you.
Dr. Forte, I wanted to ask you if any of these were mask-related cases. I don't know if you can actually divulge that or not, but have you seen any cases come through because of mask-related harassment issues?
So let me go back a little bit. I know you received training on it, but I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So when the original law came out of HIB, it didn't allow for the administration, the trained peoples, not just administration, but the trained HIB specialists. It didn't allow for them to make any decisions on whether or not to start an investigation. Meaning, if there was an accusation, you had to start the big bullying investigation. After a year or two, the state came out with it could have been 3 years too, so don't hold me to that. It was a couple of years after. The state came up with some guidelines that allowed for people to look into some cases and then not consider HIB right away because it doesn't meet the criteria. So this year, there was a case brought up in this room, I believe, two, that were related to HIB due to masks, and neither of the two that were brought up in here resulted in an HIB investigation. It stopped with the initial investigation. So the cases that we have here were not related to masks, and the two that were brought up in here were not investigated as an HIB case. They were investigated. Remember, one of the things that's really important for the public and for the board to know, just because something is determined not to be HIB or determined not to even go down the road of an investigation for HIB doesn't mean it's not handled according to our code of conduct. So just make sure that that's out there.
Any other board members? Okay. Steve, thank you very much for that. Do you want to roll right into your comments?
Yes.
Okay.
Comments for today. I think the summer program is going great. We have a packed group here, and every time I see what's going on, the children are very happy. I'm really happy with the way we were able to get it off the ground with the required program in the morning, and then we also supplemented it with a program to increase our our population for our extended school year to regular ed students. We offer that to a large group. And then we also married the AM program with a PM program that parents could use for childcare as well. So that's been going great. I had our musical, the Valley View musical is posted online. If you go to the district website, there's a news article on the website that links to the Valley View musical. It wasn't the typical musical this year. It was done virtual, but it's very nice. Going forward, we are planning on our normal year of extracurriculars for 21-22. This is good news. The Denville Schools TSS program, that's Tiered Systems of Support. It's a way to provide interventions for students who are struggling in school and academics. Mrs. Sardonopoli did present that to the group. I don't know if you recall when she was in here and she presented this program. It actually was included in a document released by the Department of Education on an exemplary program, and that was sent out to everyone throughout the state. So I received a few emails and calls and texts and things like, oh, that was great that Denville was mentioned in there. So Mrs. Sardonopoli did a really nice job of creating a video that showed the public what exactly is a TSS program, and the state thought that it was an exemplary program, and they included it in their document. I did share with 2 of our board members, and I have this in my report that'll go Friday, but I created a spreadsheet on ESSER funds, and I picked 3 districts to compare them to. And if you get a chance, I sent it to Mike and Dino. If you get a chance, take a look at that. Tell me what you think. The rest of the board will get it on Friday. Not that I can't send it to you now. If I remember to send it to you tomorrow, I will. But you'll get it on Friday anyway. But it's pretty telling because I took all 3 ESSER allocations. I took our district and then 3 other districts, and I included some other data points. I included the number of students in a district, and then the per pupil amount of ESSER funds. It's not even close. It's way off. And then I also included the household, the median household income in each town, and that's not close either. I think I even included median home value, home sale, and that's not close either. So I think it would be great for the whole board to take a look at that, and let's try to get some answers from somebody on how do they come up with the numbers? Where does that come from? Oh, I also included the percentage of low income, economically disadvantaged is the word that the Department of Ed uses, students in the district, and that's also not close. I mean, it's kind of close, it's just double, but they're small numbers, but it's in the end, it's really not comparable. I can't follow the logic of how any of these how the numbers were derived. So I'd love to see if somebody could try to get some information. I tried, and maybe we could go the local politician route now and see if we can get something. The CDC did release some guidance for 21-22. I'm going to talk about that during the comment section because there's one comment from the public that I have to go through. Projects. The Lakeview roof is progressing. The materials have been delivered and the work has been started, and I think it's on track. I was up there this morning, and it looked like there was, I don't know, at least 10 guys working on the roof, so it looked like they were getting some roofing done. The Riverview HVAC, a pre-construction meeting will be held this week. The Valley View Door project is continuing, hoping to complete by September 1st. That's refurbishing of the interior doors. We've been doing that now for a few years rather than purchasing new ones. Not just as a cost savings, but because the current doors are so solid, they just need to be refurbished, and the project is going along nicely. District ACE air conditioning. So all classrooms should have the air conditioning units installed. This is classrooms only, not large room spaces. Like not all of our large spaces like gyms will be air conditioned, but all classrooms will be completed by the end of July. Back to school nights. They are set. Valley View will be September 9th. This is all posted on our website. Valley View is September 9th. Lakeview is September 14th. And Riverview is September 22nd. Morris Knolls, if you're interested, is September 23rd and 30th. And that's the end of my comments for tonight.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Forte. Dr. Cullis is away this week, so Damaris, anything from the Business Administrator's Office?
Just one little comment. The Board of Education is quite busy preparing to close out the fiscal year 2021 and reopening 21-22. At this time, we are closing out a lot of all purchase orders and cleaning out and preparing for the audit. The auditors will be starting the fiscal year at the beginning of August. And soon after that, once the Division of Pension releases the TPAF numbers, then the audit will be released. I'm expecting to see that around October, November.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, we're going to have our first public comment section of the evening. I'm going to read the statement into the record, and then we are going to allow public comment, 3 minutes per speaker. And the purpose of the bylaw 0167, public participation in board meetings, is to recognize the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters. In order to permit the fair and orderly expression of such comment, the participant must preface comments by an announcement of his or her name and place of residence. Statements made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes duration, and no participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements, questions, and inquiries shall be directed to the board president. So this evening we also we have an email address that we are using to receive questions. We received one question ahead of time. Steve, could you repeat that email address so it goes out on YouTube, so for the future people have it?
Yes. The easiest way to get this is go on our district website, go to Board of Education, click on the meeting schedule, and we have that there. We also have it on the home page of the website in a news article. It's BOE meeting comments at denville.org. BOE meeting comments at denville.org. I will have my email up if they come. It's forwarded to me automatically, and it's also going to Ms. Gorowski, Ms. Costanza, and Mrs. Wagner. But I do have my email up, so if there's one that does come in from the public, I'd be happy to answer those, or actually possibly answer them and at least read them out, and then we might have to take some time to get the answers.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'm opening for public comment at 7:48. Let's hold the question we received earlier until after we've given the people in the room a chance to speak if they would like to. No? Okay, all right. Okay, seeing none, Steve, go ahead if you want to read that question.
Okay, there was a question from Mike Tressler. Mike Tessler. I don't have his address, but I'll give you his question. What criteria will need to be in effect to eliminate the requirement for kids to wear masks at school? I'm assuming he means in 21-22, so that's the way I answered the question. Here's the answer. As of right now, this is the information that's been provided to the district from the Department of Education as well as from the CDC. And this will go out to the public in my next letter, which is going to be going out on the 23rd of July. So on June 28th, Governor Murphy he posted this document on his website, updated CDC guidance on masking in this setting, meaning schools, is expected prior to the start of the 21-22 school year and will factor into the final recommendations from the state for masking for the fall. However, barring any significant change in health metrics, school districts will be able to determine masking policies at the local level, regardless of the Regardless of the district's policy on masking, schools cannot prevent students or staff from wearing masks if they choose. So basically, in a nutshell, as of right now, if there's a chance that it will change, but as of right now, the districts will be deciding on their masking policy on their own. I also will include this document, again, will go out on the 23rd. This document includes a link to the New Jersey Department of Education document called the Road Forward. The Road Forward does provide at this particular time that masks will be required of everyone on school buses in the year 21-22. That is not regardless of vaccination status, but on a bus, according to the document from the New Jersey Department of Ed, Road Forward, released on June 28th, that all individuals will wear a mask on buses. There's more information. On July 9th, 2021, the CDC posted a document regarding guidance for schools for 21-22, and here's their guidance. Masks should be worn indoors by all individuals who are not fully vaccinated. Consistent and correct mask use by people who are not fully vaccinated, and especially important indoors in crowded settings when physical distancing cannot be maintained. I'm just giving you 2 key points from this document related to Mr. Tessler's question. And this entire document will be included in my letter. CDC recommends schools maintain at least 3 feet of physical distance between students within classrooms, combined with indoor mask wearing by people who are not fully vaccinated to reduce transmission risk. When it is not possible to maintain physical distance of at least 3 feet, such as when schools cannot fully reopen while maintaining these distances, it is especially important to layer multiple other prevention strategies such as indoor masking. Now here's my beliefs in this point. I believe that if we return to the orange or high level of COVID transmissions anytime during the 21-22 school year, that all unvaccinated individuals will be required to wear a mask indoors. That's just my belief at this particular time. At this time, I would go by the guidance that we're receiving right now from our governor, and this could change again. But as of this time, if we can spread out people as much as we can, that we may be able to open the schools without masking as long as we're in a low level of transmission. And again, this all could change. I mean, right in the governor's document, it says that this could change. So I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. And the CDC's guidance is stating that indoors people should wear masks. So I think the real answer at this particular time is it's probably a little too early to tell, but we were in the green level, which is low for COVID, and we are back in the yellow level, which is moderate for COVID. So I will rely on our health professionals, as I did all year. We will discuss it with our health department, and we will discuss it with our nurses and our school physician, as well as any other local experts that can help us determine the best course of action for the school year 21-22 regarding masks in school. As for outside, I don't see any reason why we would be returning to wearing masks outdoors at this particular time. I hope that answered the question, and that's what I have for now.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. I have, for the record, I have Michael Tessler's address as 22 Rock Ridge Road in Denville. Okay. Did you receive anything else via email in the meantime? And ma'am, I saw you came in late. I don't know if you have we're in the public comment portion. If you'd like to have a question or comment, you can come up. Okay. All right. Seeing no other questions, I'm going to close the first public comment section at 7:54 p.m. and we're going to move on with our agenda. All right, old business action to be taken. Mrs. Gould, could I ask you to move us through these items?
Sure. If there are no objections, I move to approve the items A, B, and C. Sorry, caught me off guard with this. Item A is approving the reports from June 2021 for the Treasurer of School Monies and Board Secretary. Item B is education reports, report of student enrollment from June 2021, report of the health office, same June 2021, the HIB and SDS reports, for 2020 to 2021 year, HIB case VV 2021-02. Approve the district and board goals for 21-22. And item C is minutes for work session and executive session for June 14th, 2021, and regular session and executive session from June 28th, 2021.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Cass. Any comments or questions on these? Obviously, they include our district goals, which we discussed at our last meeting, and if anyone has comments or thoughts on those. Okay, all good. We can roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lure,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mrs. Gould.
I have to abstain on item C2 and yes on everything else.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, moving on to new business action to be taken, personnel. Mr. Anderson, could I ask you to take us through these?
Sure, if there are no objections, I'd like to move under personnel items 1 through 6. Pay attention to the addendum, which includes under item 1, P, Q, and R.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Comments, questions, thoughts? Okay, everyone good? Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lure,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to instruction and program. Mrs. Gould, I'm going to tap you again if you wouldn't mind moving through these.
Not at all. If there are no objections, I move to approve the following resolution. Item 1, workshops with expenses. And we only have one workshop for Mr. Cochio for the Teachers College August Reading Institute for a virtual program.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Cass. I was just going to ask if this was virtual, and then I saw the dates, so I won't ask that question. And we can ask Sandy next time. I'm curious when these, if there's a timeline on when some of these sessions will be going back to in person, or I guess we'll have to wait and see. Okay. Yeah, but nobody wants to travel, right?
It's actually substantially less expensive too, because the travel into the city is a lot with
Sure.
the tolls and and parking, all that.
I second it.
All right. All right, if there's nothing else, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lure,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Moving on to finance. Mr. Kim, will you take this one?
Of course. I motion that I move section C, finance, as a block, numbers 1 through 8, which basically includes a number of checks, proposals from Altitude Unlimited, and the approval of Hunter Technologies for the 2 resolutions, number 6 and 7.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lure. So just for everyone's information purpose, we had a technology meeting before this one, and Altitude Unlimited was part of the discussion. They provide contract services for several areas that the district doesn't necessarily have personnel to do themselves. You know, the expertise, it's a third-party contract to provide security and other aspects of running our network and making sure that everyone's connected.
Yeah, I guess if everyone had a chance to see the Finance Committee meeting minutes, resolution number 6 is actually going to be funded by the security grant that Damaris was able to get, Dr. Forte and Damaris was able to get approval for. So.
And that grant came out of the referendum. There was a question, right, a couple of years ago. This is that long process.
This grant was part of the Alyssa's Law grant 2 years ago or more. And then after Alyssa's became security grant, and it was finally approved now. And you guys approved this particular amount during the budget time as well.
Yeah, there's the referendum back in, I think, 2018, where we voted the whole state voted on security and VOTEC infrastructure. I think also county colleges too. And it's part of that money that's the money that we got. We got an $86,000 allocation, so we're going to use about $56,000 of it for this, and the rest of it will go to reimburse us for some of the other projects we already did.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Forte, can you just give a couple minutes or a minute or two just on exactly what we're getting with this 911 Inform Hunter Technologies?
So 911 Inform is a system that it basically automates everything. It's something that I've been looking at for a long time about how do you bring everything together. We have different programs, different equipment in the district for security, but they don't talk to each other. So this program is going to bring them all together, and it'll allow the district to put a school into lockdown very easily. Any teacher in the district, any staff member in the district could do it, even members of the public. One of the things I was happy with was I think it'll address some of our issues with what happens to schools when after hours, when some of our students are still there, or kids that are still our students but they're being supervised by local recreation departments or Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, things like that. There will be a mechanism in place that would be simple for members of the public to actually put the school district in lockdown, and at the same time notify the police all instantaneously. So that's really the gist of it, is really tying together all of the stuff we already have into one package that can be easily accessed by anyone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there's nothing else, roll call, please.
Mr. Capello,
Yes.
Mr. Cass,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Lure,
Yes.
Mr. Kim,
Yes.
Mrs. Gould.
Yes.
Okay, we don't have anything under operations and B&G, so Mr. Cass, it looks like you're off the hook tonight. So we can move right to good of the cause, committee reports, correspondence, and discussion items of the highlights of tonight's meeting.
I'll mention one thing out of committee reports. We already got out the finance and operations report under the new improved format, which kind of forces you to do it right after the meeting. And yeah, the one thing I'll mention from the report, because it was pending, that the property adjacent to Valley View School that we talked about as a possible purchase or something, it is under contract. Our business administrator researched that, so it looks like it's going to be sold and not available for anything. And this is probably a due diligence we would do for any properties that we consider, besides the cost, what would it cost to maintain the property, renovation, demolition costs, etc., and also what are we going to use it for, and then would it be a suitable purchase for what our needs are. And the parking lot seemed to be the most viable use of that property. It's adjacent to Valley View, and we've all been up there one time or another, and the parking can be difficult if you go up there midday. But we looked into it, and it's a closed issue.
Well, thank you to the committee for taking a look at it.
On the topic of the committee reports, I want to say for the IMP and personnel, I apologize. We didn't get that. We're trying to figure out the new procedure because now it's one document, but we have two different chairs on the committees, and so we have to figure out that process a little bit. And and just figure out exactly how to work that. So I'm not sure if everybody has links to where it is and can see it, or if we have to send out the email again, or what exactly happens with that.
So everyone can see it actually as you do it. So you all have access to it. It's a shared folder that we all have access to. And there are some notes on the personnel and IMP now. So if you want to look at it, you can. I think it's probably a good practice for the board to send it out as an email, just because I think it gives people a reminder to look at it, just like we do with the agendas and things. It's hard to remember all the things to do. I think it's better though. Do you guys feel like it's better this way? It does kind of force you to do it right away.
I did it during the meeting. I didn't know that it was a matter of figuring out, what we're doing and who would email it out between us. So yeah, but sorry if not sending it out. We'll figure it out. At the next meeting, we'll figure out the procedure.
I'm not ignoring it to you. It's just that my neck doesn't turn that far, but I'm trying.
Yeah, I guess the only issue with the committees like that is just making sure that one member or one chairperson, if they're not done, right, and the other person is, I guess maybe the email is, hey, the INP part's done, but maybe the personnel's part's not done until the personnel chair sends his email out. But yeah, I like the idea, and personally, I like the idea of being able to see those notes as they develop and seeing them even if they're not totally finished. To me, that's useful. So I don't know if everyone else feels the same way.
We discussed that after the first time, because James beat me. I was still working on mine. But we did talk about splitting them up. I mean, there's a necessity to have certain committees meet together, because anything you do in building and grounds ultimately, and transportation too, most of it ends up in the finance committee to be approved for purchasing. So maybe that's something we should talk about, consider, is doing them separately so they're not adjoined at the hip. And also you want to give all the committee members time to, they might not have time that night to look at it, to look at the initial draft, make sure there's nothing they want to add to it or correct.
Yeah, I think, it may be as simple as maybe the chairperson just marks their version or their part of it final when it's final. I don't know if that will help, but.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're just basically sending an email to Damaris saying our section is done, and Damaris has been gracious enough to send it out on our behalf. So, yeah, it seems to work really well. I mean, at one point, Don and I were working on the document together. I mean, I was working on finance section, he was working on B&G, so it just morphed into sort of a finalized document, and we both sent emails to Damaris almost at the same time saying ours is done, and so, yeah.
I have one more thing, a liaison report from Denville Recreation and the Sports Council. All the godfathers of the sports had a meeting with the mayor and business administrator last week, and they're moving forward with a second artificial turf field up at Veterans Memorial Park on Zeke Road. So this is great because the artificial turf, is more playable after bad weather. And also, I found out at the meeting that field hockey is an emerging sport in Denville, and the outlook right now is going to be clinic-oriented initially as they get the wheels on it, and start recruiting players and join a league and all that. They'd be domiciled at Pocono Field over there across from the street from the hospital. That's where they would be practicing and working out in the fall. So it's good news out of that those meetings. And the Recreation Committee did set forth a resolution endorsing the artificial turf field, and it'll go before the town council to work on the financing and the incremental bits and pieces that will be done, preliminary work done before they install the actual field.
Was there any chance that there was a discussion of a track on that?
Yeah, I was going to ask that exact question. Yeah.
I didn't know about the meeting, so I wasn't there, but.
I can't give out too many details. I don't know where they are with the town council on it, but this is about fiscal prudence that we talked about. the town is very well run. The mayor set a budget, and while we go into the additional field and the supporting infrastructure there, so there was no track in that. But I'm up at the current field frequently, and there's always people walking and running during the day, running around that. You go around 4 times, it's a mile. So, and then, you do the cross country, you can work your way up to the, go around the artificial turf field on that macadam. Then you go up on the top field too. There's a lot of perimeter there that does interfere with the fields, but that's a good point. That came up when we did the playground too, about having a wider track, wide track around Gardner Field there so people could walk and run.
Okay, great, thanks, Tom. Anyone else?
I got a couple of things. The Denville Green Team will be having an ad hoc meeting tomorrow, the 13th at 2 p.m. at the new Church Street Bagel Smart World for discussions on how to move the committee forward, since a couple of members, including the chairman, unfortunately were forced to leave the committee recently. Second thing I have is a quick recap of the tech committee meeting that we had earlier tonight. The vast majority of the meeting was a discussion of and recap of things that had happened earlier this year. There was a huge amount of tech committee related activity this year, among which are the addition of, over I think 1,000 Chromebooks to the district broadband. Time and effort were spent figuring out why individual students were unable to get internet connections, and solutions were found, including hotspots, and figuring out why specific Chromebooks worked better than others. A huge amount of work was put in by the technology department. Going forward, we are looking to be able to start the year with devices in everyone's hands. If you'll remember, this past year, the handout wasn't able to happen as normal because of COVID, like everything else that got messed up this year. And hold on. Sorry, it wasn't going down a page. Going forward, the Board of Education meetings will be YouTube streaming and not interactive, as we already saw. It worked quite well so far, and if there are problems, please make sure you make those problems known to people, to the tech committee or to members of the administration. Once we have finalized the minutes, we'll do the same thing, get an email out. But since the meeting was only over at 7 o'clock, we really didn't have time to review the minutes yet.
Great, thanks, Dave. Anyone else?
I want to congratulate Ms. Gorowski, Dr. Forte, and Dr. Cullis on all their miracles and achieving them, and well done.
Thank you. How does this sound for our highlights tonight? District and board goals approved. District receives an $86,000 grant from the state for security, and the Lakeview roof project is progressing. Anybody have anything else? You're good?
Works for me.
Sounds good. Okay. All right, if that's everything, we're going to open up our second public comment section of the evening. The same rules apply as before. I will be opening up at 8:14 p.m. Steve, I'm assuming, are you going to check, just to double check? Anything new?
There are no additional questions that have been emailed.
Okay. Anyone here, would you like to make any comment? Okay. All right, no problem. All right, in that case, I am going to close still at 8:14 p.m. We do have need for... Sorry, I'm going to close at 8:14 p.m. We do have a need for a short executive session, Steve?
Yes, that's correct,
Okay.
for personnel.
for personnel, and just so the public knows, we aren't expecting to be voting after the executive session. Mr. Anderson, would you care to move us into executive, please?
Sure, I'd move to convene an executive session in accordance with Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss legal, Steve?
Personnel and legal.
Personnel and legal issues. Minutes of this session will be made available to the public when the need for confidentiality no longer exists.
I'll
Second.
second.
I think it was Mr. Lewis by a hair. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we are